All right, guys, here we are again. Another rainy evening here in Northern California, which is, can't really complain because we need that rain a lot, but that rainy weather uh, serves itself to savory meals. And so what is on the menu tonight? Well, I'm going to tell you. We are going to make a Southwest style chili in a cast iron pot. There's going to be some non-traditional, I would say, ingredients in this. It's going to be a pork-based chili, along with a bunch of different ingredients. I'm going to spin you guys around here in a bit, and I'll show you all that. But there's actually also going to be an unusual ingredient, which I find works really well in chili in small portions, but it really adds a little bit of complex flavor. So, on that note, let me spin you around here. All right. So as you can see, this is what we're working with here tonight. So we've got our pork over here. We've got a chili kit, which is really nice in this recipe. It's got some masa flour and some spicy chili peppers or chili powder. Really good, nice little spice pack to go in there. So we like that. We've got our tomato paste, some diced tomatoes. A lot of people like just the meat only chili. This is going to be a chili with beans. And so we've got our kidney beans over there. We've got some black beans. We've also got a variety of peppers here. We got some jalapeno and poblano, some onions, a variety of spices. I like cilantro or coriander. One trick about that, as you can see, it's in a glass. You can do this with all your fresh herbs. When you get them from the store, when you get home, you get some scissors, cut off the bottom of those stems, throw that in a cup of water, keep the little bag that you get from the grocery store, put that bag over it. It stays in the refrigerator fresh for at least 2 weeks. So it really is a way to extend the freshness of any kind of fresh herbs. There is that. Got our spices over here. We've got some cumin and oregano, of course, chili powder. Won't need too much in those because the chili mix over there is going to account for a lot of that, but we'll supplement that. Salt and pepper is needed. Got some garlic. And the secret ingredient. What is that, might you ask? Well, that would be some chocolate. Chocolate and chili adds a really nice flavor that you wouldn't expect. It's almost kind of like a mole, if you're familiar with like a Mexican mole. Has a similar kind of taste. So, and of course I'm cheating back there with the Krusteaz honey cornbread. Hey, you know, let's make it easy on ourselves. So we're gonna get all these together. Gonna whip up some cornbread later. So for now, I'm gonna start chopping up some veggies, get that garlic crushed, and you guys will meet me back at the pan. We'll see you in a bit. All right, guys, back again. As you can see, we've got our veggies chopped up. I actually had a shallot over there, and I was like, well, why not? Let's throw a shallot in there as well with the onion. I like the taste of shallot, very delicate. With those peppers, a couple things to note. I took out the seeds, so if you leave the seeds in, it's going to be a lot spicier, which a lot of people like, but some people in my family prefer it not quite as spicy. Plus, we're going to have the spice of some of these others, the kit and then the chili powder. So it was just a personal preference not to leave those seeds in there. We got our garlic chopped up. Next step will be we're going to meet over at the stove and start browning up that pork. And that's where we'll see you next. Okay, as you can hear by that sizzle, our pork is starting to cook up here. As you can see in the pan, I've got some olive oil. I like to do that with pork because generally it's a little bit more lean than ground beef, and so you kind of need that little bit of oil and fat in there to cook it up. Other benefit is oftentimes you don't really have to drain this at the end. There's just not a whole lot of fat that breaks down versus like ground beef or whatever, where you would definitely want to drain it because there's a lot of things, you don't want all that extra grease and fat in there. And so what I'm going to do now is while that's cooking up, I'm going to throw in these veggies to start sauteing with that pork. And that's where I'm going now. So we got our onions there. All right, our shallots. Okay. And our poblanos. Oh yeah. And our jalapenos. All right. So we're going to hold back on the garlic for a little bit. You know, garlic has a tendency to burn if you add it in too soon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this meat and these really nice veggies cook down and get nice and happy. And when you come back, it'll be time to add some spices and some of our other ingredients. All right, guys, we are back in this thing. Ooh, if you had smell-o-vision on YouTube, man, all those peppers and onions and that pork cooking together is just really smells fantastic. So, since the last video, I I put in the garlic, so we got that in here. I waited till close to the end. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start adding our other ingredients, the wet ingredients, and then the beans and some of these spices. So let's get to it. So first I've got the diced tomatoes. So let's put that in there. We've got 2 containers of diced tomatoes, which looks pretty good. We've got our black beans. And I drained the black beans. I don't like the black bean juice in there. Now for the kidney beans, the juice in a kidney bean can is actually called the liquor of the beans, and it actually imparts a pretty nice flavor on chili. So the preference of mine, I like to include that in there. So put that in there. Give that a little tap. Make sure all those little guys get out of there. Oh, there we go. All right. Now we've got some tomato paste. I'll get that in there. All right. Let's give this a stir, and then we'll start thinking about putting some spices in there. Looking pretty good so far, man. This is going to be a lot of chili. We're gonna have a lot of leftovers here. I'll have to freeze some of this. Give that a stir. And for the masa that was in that spice packet, we're gonna wait a little bit to see how thick this turns out. And that will kind of give us an idea of how much or less, or how much or less we need. But in the meantime, we're gonna start stirring this around. Getting everything all mixed in. Looks really good. Should be very tasty. And let's do this here. Let's start thinking about some of these really good spices we got. So the main spice packet that came with that box that I showed everyone, it's a mix of, I think, the cumin and the chili powder. So we're going to put that in first and then decide how much more we may or may not need of the original other spices. So we'll see. This should be pretty tasty. I think let's start there. Remember, you can always add more. It's hard to take it out. So let's start with a little and then see what happens. You know, with anything like a chili or a stew, you've really got to let this kind of simmer down for a while. You can't really, it's not going to show its true colors until it's had a chance to kind of, you know, have all these flavors meeting together and cooking down and getting thicker. I can already tell we're probably going to want some of that masa in here. But we will wait to see as it thickens down. In the meantime, I do know that I'm going to want a little oregano in there. All right. And some fresh cracked jack. And salt's another one that I'm going to wait on for a bit. I'll try it as we get closer, but I don't want to put salt in now until all these kind of flavors have had a chance to. I'm not sure how that seasoning pack, how much salt that's going to impart on everything. And so what we're going to do here is let's let this simmer for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll come back to it and we'll see where we're at. All right, guys. All right, guys. Well, this chili is simmering away, and man, it is tasty. I had a little bite earlier. I kind of was curious where our seasoning level was. So I did end up adding the rest of that spice pack, and also a little bit of cumin. And also I thought it was kind of a little thick, and so I had some beef broth, a little bit of beef broth left over in the refrigerator. Ended up throwing that in there too, and that kind of gave it a real nice consistency. I like it. Looks pretty good. And you know, I think I mentioned this before in my other videos, is that cooking is really a dynamic process. You know, it's not always going to be the recipe. You know, things are going to work out differently. So you kind of got to be willing to experiment sometimes and try different things and just see what happens. I mean, you know, who knows? And what's the worst that can happen? Takeout. Just kidding. Okay, so what we got here is that secret ingredient I was telling everybody about, that chocolate. This is going to impart a really nice, delicate, and kind of a complex flavor to the chili, which is kind of cool. So not too much, as you can see, maybe like a half of the thing, or the bar there. Just kind of break it up. Now you do want to continue to stir this quite often. You don't want that chocolate to burn or anything at the bottom, so we will do that. I'm also going to add in a little bit of that masa. Like I mentioned, it's already kind of a thick chili, so you wouldn't need too much, but I really like the flavor that imparts in a chili, so I'm just going to start there and see if what that does for us. Like I said, we want to just kind of stir this around, and that's going to be real good. You see how the color kind of changes a little bit? we get kind of a lighter color. It's really good stuff. It's a great thing. I'd recommend you guys trying if you want to do something. So chocolate and masa. You probably, I don't know if anybody's ever maybe put that in their chilies, but you know, we are something different tonight. And like I said, we want to continue to stir that very frequently because we do not want that chocolate that we put in there to burn. And that was a semi-sweet chocolate. You could use milk chocolate. That would be good too. A little sugar in there might temper the tomato sauce a little bit. So that would also be an option. And I can already tell that I like that color that's getting with that masa addition in there. We'll just keep stirring this around. And I'm going to continue to let this simmer just a real low once I get everything stirred around for, I don't know, maybe another half hour, something like that. The kids, I got to get the kids to their activities, so it's a good time to do that. So we will let, like I said, I'm going to continue to stir this, and then when you see me back, I'll be back with the big bite. All right, guys. All right, guys, here we go. The chili simmered for about another hour or so, or not an hour, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. Turned out really good, really good. I'm going to show you guys a quick look at it before taking the big bite. We'll see how it turned out with everything on there. And here we go. Let's give you guys a quick look at what we ended up with here. So you can see we've got the chili. I put a little cheese on there. There's some cilantro and just some tortilla chips kind of ground up. Should make for a really nice meal tonight. But the proof is in the pudding. So let's take a bite and see what we ended up with here. Really good. Chili's really rich. You get the depth of flavor from all those spices. Slight hint of chocolate on the back end. Just a really good meal for a cold, rainy day like this. And so hope you all might want to try this meal. And if you do, you enjoy it. And until next time, bye-bye.